How many different rotations do you set up for your students each week?
I set up 3 rotations, and it's the same rotations each week.
And could you please list those rotations that your students are doing while you're either leading a guided reading group or doing DRA assessments on students?
hmm We do read to self, read to someone, and listen to reading, and then sometimes we do word work instead of listen to reading.
Okay. And what does listen to reading look like?
Children are, studies have shown that listening to books that are beyond their level helps them with comprehension, and so they just are listening to stories through a headset, sometimes a CD player, or through a computer.
Great. And how do you decide which activity students will participate in?
They do the same activities, so I integrate activities through those activities. So read to self, sometimes they'll read a book and then complete a story map, listing the characters, the setting, problem and solution. Read to someone that they are talking about. I'll give them a topic to talk about after they're done reading. So they're just taking turns reading and being each other's coach. And it's just a type of collaboration and peer collaboration.
And so the task that you give them related to those rotations are those skills that they're working on either as a whole class or in small group with you?
Yes. So we have 4 goals that we work on. We work on fluency, accuracy, comprehension, and expand vocabulary. And so if we worked on a skill, let's say for example, chunking words, then they will be practicing that chunking words and practicing those skills with a buddy or read to self.
Do you suggest that the same students rotate to the same stations at the same time? So whatever group you have for guided students, those students rotate through the same rotations?
Actually, no. So they'll meet with me as a leveled reading group, or if they're working on that same skill. But when they're going through those rotations, they are meeting with kids that are a whole bunch are at different levels. So then they are maybe a low reader is reading with a high reader, and so that high reader can help guide that low reader and be that peer coach for them.
So you've obviously been using rotations for many years. For teachers that are just starting to use rotations, do you recommend that model where it's heterogeneous groups and not homogeneous as far as reading levels, or do you recommend that they rotate as far as a management tool to rotate together?
I think if you're just starting out, well, I decided to do read to self, read to someone, and listen to reading because it was easier for me to manage because I can intertwine activities through that. But just having them read on a regular basis is beneficial to them to improve their reading and to practice what we are doing in the classroom. However, it might be easier that they can still do those same rotations, just do it heterogeneously or but homogeneously rather versus heterogeneously. So I think maybe if they're just getting started out, it might be easier for them just to have the kids rotate with their group.
Great. What advice would you give other teachers as they start using guided reading groups and rotations?
Um, to give it time to let the kids practice. I think we spent about 4 to 5 weeks just practicing going through those rotations over and over and over again and building our stamina. So we started with 3 minutes and then we worked up to now they're about at 20 minutes. And I'm not saying that all of them are reading for that whole time for 20 minutes, but by the end of the year, most of them are reading for that 20 minutes. So just to give yourself permission to have the kids practice.
What systems do you put into place for students to use if they have a question and they think they need you while you're doing a guided group and they're supposed to be doing rotations? What are your expectations for students?
I have a very busy spider, so we read a book called The Very Busy Spider. If that spider's on my desk, then they know that I'm meeting with that group. However, it doesn't necessarily always work, but I do will put up my hand and then they remember. Or if they have to go to the bathroom, we have signals. So they're not interrupting saying, Mrs. O'Malley, I have to go to the bathroom or I need a drink of water. And so bathroom is this, getting a drink is this. So we just have those symbols and they're getting better. At the beginning, again, we had to practice and I had to give them reminders. And another thing is if they are not working the whole time and they need review, then we go back and we practice. So we just don't practice at the beginning of the year, but we practice throughout the year. And so as far as them coming and interrupting me, sometimes we'll have to revisit that, and I have to remind them how to, when I'm working with a group or working with an individual, what they need to do.